What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. This week is fun. We're looking at, Mars is still retrograde. Mars is still retrograde. Man, Mars retrograde takes so long. Mars is retrograde in Cancer. So, Mars is the action planet. Mars is the one that wants to do stuff, that wants to get things moving, to be the aggressor in some kind of way. Mars wants to push on things and make shit happen. So Mars retrograde, that's Mars moving backwards instead of forward. So the Mars thing is probably not happening as well, as strongly, as easily as we might like. And one of the things that we can notice this week is that Mars is going to get some support. So Mars retrograde is moving closer and closer to a trine to Saturn in Pisces. And Saturn at this point is moving pretty quick as far as Saturn goes. Saturn is the slow planet, so like Saturn never really moves quickly. But as fast as Saturn moves, that's how fast Saturn is going right now. And moving forward. And so, a forward motion, opposite to retrograde motion, for direct motion is like the planet doing its thing in its way. It's like handling business, right? And so Saturn in Pisces, one of the things that I talk about sometimes with Saturn in Pisces is like, it's really good for narrative world building, and it's really good for sort of like getting the structure of dreams, or like what is the way that ocean currents work, right? If we think about Pisces as being deep sea, maybe there are aliens down there, maybe there's outer space down there, 10,000 leagues under the sea. If you like actually go 10,000 leagues and you end up down in outer space, right? And so what is actually going on out here in this deep, dark place? Now, Saturn likes the dark places. Saturn likes darkness. And so, even though the ocean is not necessarily full of boundaries, right? It's all soupy. And so the kind of melding together is really great for a Jupiter, for example, right? Jupiter rules Pisces, but is maybe a little more difficult for Saturn, who typically prefers borders and boundaries that are clear and concrete, this kind of thing. So to see Saturn in Pisces this way does have a little bit of contradiction there, but that deep darkness of that area and the heavy weight of being, like the idea of like being down under so much water, like creates a bunch of pressure. Pressure is really strong Saturn energy. And so Saturn is very good at doing the Saturn things in that kind of environment, even if there is a little bit of like mixing going on that maybe Saturn doesn't prefer as much as some other things, right? So Saturn is in this position where Saturn is like pretty capable of doing the Saturn things, creating boundaries, restrictions, maybe looking at responsibility and discipline, maybe checking out the ancient things, right? The deep ocean is another place where ancientness exists. There are sharks that simply don't die unless they're killed, or like these kinds of things, right? Things that go back an incomprehensible period of time, like ancientness is associated with Saturn, right? So we might look at old ways of doing things, old ways of understanding things. There's something about dreams in general that feels kind of ancient, like ancient symbolism that transcends this moment in time, right? So sometimes you'll have a dream about like looking on your phone for something, right? And like that's an image that is sort of mostly resonant in the present. But then there will also be times when you like find yourself naked in front of a bunch of people, or you find yourself with your teeth falling out, or teeth are another good Saturn word. And so these kinds of images show up in dreams for centuries, at least for as long as dream literature goes back. And so the ancientness is like cute for Saturn. And so there's something here and so this Saturn which is capable of looking at that ancientness and dealing with the pressure of deep narrative and all of that sort of stuff, is making a trine a beneficial and helpful kind of aspect to Mars in Cancer. Mars is like kind of floundering a little bit. Mars doesn't know how to live in Cancer generally, but then retrograde, they're having a rough time. Mars is like going through it, right? And so Saturn is in position to support this Mars in some kind of way. So if the actions In the immediate term, we can think about Cancer. Mars is in Cancer right now. Cancer is a cardinal sign, right? And cardinal signs tend to like want to get things going in some kind of way. As water signs go, I tend to think about Cancer, which is associated with the crab, right? The idea that we're at the beach here. So this is the shallowest area of the ocean, right? This is shallow waters. And so there is something here about like, it doesn't go very deep. And so Mars is in this place that doesn't go very deep and is like kind of dying about it a little bit, right? Mars stuff is not working. You're trying to get things going and it's like not getting going properly. You're trying to push and it's like flopping, you know what I mean? Like it's not happening in the way that you want it to. And so there's something here about like, okay, what if we like do the Saturn thing a little bit? What if we like take it slow? You know, Mars retrograde is gonna be grumpy about taking it slow. It's not gonna feel good about taking it slow, but maybe there's some support there in taking it slow. The other thing, and thinking about like some of the older ways of thinking about things, the older ways of like being in the world, of mixing oneself with world in general. Where are the boundaries between me and environment? It's difficult to say sometimes when you, especially when you get to the microbiome level or these kinds of things, right? So thinking with that sort of stuff, like how can my own actions be improved by thinking in the more deep sea, heavy pressure, deep narrative kind of space. There's an opportunity there to work with that. Speaking of opportunities to work with stuff, if you want to learn how to do this kind of thing yourself, my astrology course, Astrology from the Ground Up, it's a fundamentals course. It's for people who have never really dealt with astrology before, but you're like here and so you're like interested in astrology. It's a very good program for learning how to do astrology. You can find that at zambonifunk.com. If you don't feel like doing all that work of like studying, you know, it's like 20 hours a lecture. There's a workbook there also. It's a good program. Pedagogically, it's strong. I have run the course twice and I feel pretty good about it. But if you don't feel like doing all that shit, you can also just go to zambonifunk.com and get a reading. I'll do it for you. And it's simple and easy. So both of those things are available at zambonifunk.com. So check that out. There's an opportunity there for you to deal with an ancient craft in order to work out how to manage your own actions more effectively. So the other thing that we can notice here about Mars getting some support is that Venus is moving into Aries. Now, Aries is a sign that is ruled by Mars. And so Venus Venus is a benefic, right? Venus is one of the ones that has to do with like things that feel good or things that are sweet and delicious in some kind of way. Venus has been exalted in Pisces for the last few weeks here. That's cute. It's been, really good on the Venus things. But Venus moving into Aries, this is a little bit of an uncomfortable place for Venus. This is a place where you have to find the beauty in war making. Like I heard somebody say one time, like, wow, that was a really magnificent kick. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like somebody got hit in a way that was like really on point. And yes, it was like, it was kind of violent, but it was also kind of beautiful in its way, right? That's how Venus in Aries tends to get down, right? Aries makes an overcoming square to Cancer. So that is to say that Venus is going to be making this square to Mars over the next few weeks. That's not exact this week, but that's going to be going on here. And so there's something beautiful that can be found even in the Mars place. And so as Mars is like kind of dying, doesn't know how to make it work and all this sort of stuff, then there is an opportunity here. What I've been saying about Mars retrograde this whole time has been like, how are you aligning your method with your outcomes, with your goals, right? If you are you sure that that is your goal and that, so like, are you sure that that's your goal in the first place? Let's be clear about that. But then let's also be clear that the methods, the steps that I am actually taking are in fact taking me toward that goal, right? And so Venus in Aries is a good time to think through, what do I like about this Mars sphere? What is good? What feels good here? What feels delicious about this space? And are there some ways that I can enjoy moving toward that goal? Are there some ways that I can enjoy the method, that I can feel good or pleasurable about the way to get to my goal? Now, the other thing that's happening late in the week is we've got a Mercury cazimi. We've got Mercury in the same degree as the sun in late Aquarius. That's going to be really good for speaking truth straight at it. That's going to be really good for saying an uncomfortable thing. And sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk about how how beautiful the kick was, or how beautiful, how like delightful that war making aspect was. But if you can speak to that thing, then maybe there's some benefit there. Go to zambonifunk.com. I appreciate